So right before we get into can you split a nuke, which was a really interesting common question I've been getting this year, just wanted to do a quick update. Here's what you're wanting to see in your bees. I mean, you can see they are just going all out, got some nectar flow, pollen, but then as far as brooding, they are just, you can see every cell is open, or I mean full. Lots of royal jelly, which means that they've got good nutritional sources. The queen was here somewhere, like a nice carniolan queen. But anyways, yeah, so I mean, this is just what you're wanting to see, is that, you know, the bees are gearing up. It's just that time of the year, and they should be pushing the brood nest as big as they possibly can. These are bees that have been split for the second time this year, and so now we've got a new super on them, and now we're going to go back through our operation probably in about 2 or 3 weeks, end of May more accurately, and shake the bees down into the single, throw a queen excluder, and start producing some honey. So it's funny, you know, dark queens are, and she's on here somewhere, but it doesn't help when I'm trying to film either. It'll be funny because watch her show up on the video here. But anyways, gives you an update on what we're seeing here. So a interesting question that I've actually gotten rather consistently this year is, can you split nukes? And you know, my first suggestion or knee-jerk reaction to that is no. And I'm approaching it more from the perspective of a person who's just getting into beekeeping. You don't want to split your nuke because there's different factors that come into whether that split's going to be successful. But with that said, if you're experienced, if you know, I mean, something as simple as, well, you know what, let's start from the beginning. So it's very common in commercial beekeeping for a nuke to start off with 3 frames. A frame or 2 of brood, 1 frame of feed. That's pretty common in the industry. However, you have to be careful that the temperatures are mild enough so that that brood doesn't chill, because obviously if you're only using 3 frames, there's minimal resources, i.e. population of bees, to keep that brood warm. So you have to be cognizant of that. But my recommendation is, if you buy a nuke, install it and wait until it's a good solid single of bees, because a 5 frame nuke in general is 3 frames of bee, or I mean 3 frames of brood, 3 frames of brood, and 2 frames of feed, pollen. So say here we got 8 frames. This time of the year, the genetic of bees that we're running, I guarantee you probably 5 or 6 of those frames are brood. So right there, I would be comfortable with making 2 nukes from that single. And once again, I mean, like I said, if you're more experienced, you're watching the weather, you're watching their feed, you can get a little more creative in maybe using 3 frames. But here's a rule of thumb to use when thinking about splitting your bees, and anybody who's been in beekeeping any amount of time has fallen into this trap. I have, and that is, it's very easy to want to start splitting your numbers really quickly, but there's a kind of a law of diminishing returns if you keep doing that or do it too aggressively. It's way better to take, like in our operation, when these doubles, I mean, these aren't doubles from the almonds, this is us putting seconds on bees that have already been split twice. So, but as it's kind of like a, you know, a visual representation, we would take doubles like this and split them in half, and then put an empty deep on them, which is what we did here. This is our second round of splitting since coming out of the almonds. That's a little bit of a weaker one. But you got the queen cell there. But what we'll do is do that, wait for them to build up into the second, and then split them again. When you've got a good population of bees, what's going to happen is they're going to be able to cover more brood area. The queen's going to be able to lay her nest out further, and you get kind of a compounding effect of the bees being able to build up quicker. And so, going back to, can you split a nuc? Technically, you could if it's really strong, but it's best to wait until they're a single. Either 8 to 10 frames of brood and bees, like solid brood and bees, to split. And that's just a generally good rule to follow, just overall. So anyways, hopefully that's helpful. This time of year, big thing in our area, we're in the Pacific Northwest, Western Washington. The biggest thing that you want to watch for is swarming. Make sure they got feed too. They're, this time of year, they're brooding up quickly. Maple flow is more or less over, which is a significant flow for us. And so even though now they've got pollen, you're gonna want to make sure that they have feed. And so you may want to check them for weight, and may need to do some supplemental feeding for syrup, or with a thin syrup. So anyway, but yeah, overall, that's a big thing. It's actually another good time of year too to assess your queen health and just make sure. I mean, at this point, none of our queens are over a year old. That's just something that, between viral issues, between how aggressively you have to treat to keep the mite issues down, which then in turn into viral issues, queen viability past 12 months is very questionable. And so we always recommend at this point, if your queen is over a year old, probably want to go ahead and replace her, which can be heartbreaking, especially if you have a good solid queen. But then again too, if you're kind of more experimental, you can start looking at queens like that as a possibility to maybe start raising your own line of genetics and take from her, graft from her, or anyways, I mean, there's so many different possibilities. Time of the year, allergies, frog in my throat. I'll catch you later.